What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Nemo Propaganda here, and today we're going to cover the ATC SCM11s. You guys have been asking me to cover ATC speakers for a long time. In the comments section of every video, anytime I review a speaker around $2,000 a pair, there's always someone there saying, hey, you should check out ATC. They make great stuff, some of the best stuff at the price point. And, you know, I always thought that was just like bias because, you know, you own the product, you think that, but you guys might be onto something, and I'm going to tell you why I mostly agree and feel like this is a very, very special set of speakers, very capable, and can do some things that are not too common in around this price. Before I get ahead of myself, let me throw those main specs on screen so you guys can check that out. I'll tell you about the standout features, what makes the speakers, you know, cool or unique, you know, things like that. I'll tell you what they sound like, of course, how they compare to other speakers in and around this price, like the KEF R3 Meta, the Dynaudio Evoke 20, the Bucard S400 Mark II. I mean, this is a competitive price category. I'll tell you about amplification pairing and room setup, and then we'll wrap up the video. So let's start with standout features. When I say made in England, I really mean the speakers made in England, not just assembled there. Even the drive units are made in England, in-house by ATC. You're not going to find this midwoofer or this tweeter on any other brand speaker because it's made in-house, and the voice coil on the midwoofer is hand wound, which is pretty cool. You don't generally see that in and around this price point. This cabinet's finished in a beautiful white. It also comes in black or a wood finish if you prefer that. You do have your pair of binding posts out back, and this is a sealed design. That's it as far as standout features. So let me tell you what they sound like, because the reality is this. I can sit here and tell you forever how cool it is that they're made in England and how good they feel when you hold them in your hand. There's a lot of mass to these speakers. They are heavy because they are built very, very well. It's a very robust design. But none of that matters if it doesn't sound good. So what makes them special or unique in terms of their sound? Well, it's the way they do it. For the most part, from top to bottom, we have a neutral presentation. But most speakers, when they're neutral, they tend to come across a little bit boring. And that's why, you know, generally we'll see speakers that are either on the forward side of neutral being clean, clear, and analytical, or on the warmer side being more tonally rich. Most speakers have to have some color in one direction or another to get that emotional engagement, that emotional reaction when you sit down and listen to the music. Not the ATC SCM11. They've somehow managed to make a speaker that is neutral, yet not boring in any way. It is very emotionally engaging. You are absolutely connected to the music. It is still very natural sounding, and what they've accomplished here is something that I think is special and is unique. And I'm not taking a jab here at other brands, but like ELAC's been trying to make a good neutral speaker for a long time. They tried with the DBR62. People said it was boring. They tried with the UBR62. I'll be honest, I said that one was boring. I feel like this is what they're trying to make, and they can't. ATC has just knocked it out of the park. Let me take you through the treble, mid-range, and bass, because it's not as simple as like they're just neutral, right? There's a lot that comes with that. So the noise floor is very low on these speakers, and I'm guessing that has something to do with how much mass this cabinet has and these drivers that are handmade in-house. Detail is just coming out of nowhere. Ink black background, absolutely effortless. Despite being very neutral with its treble quantity, there's a ton of air and a ton of detail available. Just like a speaker that is on the forward side of neutral. Think something like the Focal Aria 906. That's a bright speaker, ton of detail, you know, and stuff like that. The ATC SCM11, despite being neutral, has just as much detail as the Focal Aria 906. It's incredible that they were able to accomplish that. Moving down to the mid-range, again, that air and spaciousness just continues. Human voices sound natural and realistic with a good amount of projection and air and space around them. Moving down to the bass, this is a sealed speaker, so you're not going to have a tremendous amount of bass, but you're going to have a natural response. Depending on your room's room gain, you may have more or less, of course, but I found the bass quantity to be overall a little bit low, bass quality to be very high, good note-to-note distinction, very quick with its transients, very articulate and such. But I think it's difficult to describe a neutral speaker without comparisons. I think it's hard to quantify how good this speaker is without comparisons. So let's talk about amplification real quick, and then we'll jump into comparisons. I used all kinds of different amplifiers. It didn't seem to matter. The ATC SCM11 did they sounded fantastic no matter what for the most part. That's not to say you should use poor amplification. I would not use an AVR to drive them. But something like the Pathos Classic 1 Mark III tube hybrid integrated amp I have here, this one actually right here, incredible combination, very nicely done. Even my Kinky Studio separates, my preamp and mono blocks that are just more neutral and analytical, sounded fantastic with the ATC SCM11. Hagel H190 did great. Choco Ime, another good option. The speaker's not too picky as long as you have a very, very clean signal path, because the background of the speaker is so dark. If you have noise in your amplifier circuits, the ATC will show you. It's not picky with amplification necessarily. It just has to be high quality amplification. I'm not surprised studios around the world use this speaker. Because look, there's a lot of neutral speakers. If the studio just wanted a neutral speaker, they'd pick something else. But these are neutral and enjoyable and emotionally engaging. You know, you get chills listening to them. When was the last time you listened to a neutral speaker and it still gave you chills? It just doesn't generally happen. And I'm kind of beside myself here. Let me jump into the comparisons because that's really going to give you the context. Let's talk about the Focal Aria 906. That's $2,200 a pair, so it's about $200 more money. I own a pair and have owned a pair for a long time. It's a favorite of mine. I'm selling them now. The ATC SCM11 can do everything the Focal Aria 906 can do, substantially better. Substantially. The treble of the ATC SCM11 is more clear. It's more articulate. It's more spacious without being on the forward side of neutral, without being bright. It's so much easier to listen to, yet gives me more detail. I mean, that's a win-win situation. Let's talk about mid-range. The Focal Aria 906 midrange is a little bit clinical. It is a little bit on the cool side of things, and that's what we expect from Focal, no big deal. The ATC SCM11, let me explain why real quick. When a midrange is cool and analytical, it tends to be very open and expansive. The ATC SCM11 can give me that expansive midrange without being on the cool side. It can do it while still being neutral, while still having body in the mid-range, while still having the vocalist sound natural and not recessed in any way. In fact, the vocalist is pushed forward a little bit with air and space around them. The mid-range of the ATC SCM11 is superior to the Focal Aria 906. This is not a small difference. Moving down to the bass, both speakers have quick bass. I'll admit that. The Aria 906 and the ATC SCM11, they have similar bass where the quantity is a little bit lower, but the quality is very, very high, very quick transients, very good note-to-note distinction. I would say between the two speakers, bass performance is about equal. Bass sound quality is absolutely about equal as well. Focal Aria 906, I have to admit, bass quality, very good. But mid-range and treble, ATC SCM11 is a big step up from the Aria 906. It's not small. It makes the Aria 906 sound like a $800-900 speaker, if I'm just being completely honest here. And I love that speaker. I own it. You know what I mean? But I'm selling them. And what I'm going to do is buy the SCM11s next. I don't think there's a better compliment I can give to a product than saying I'm buying it. You guys have seen me review a ton of stuff. How much stuff do I buy? Not much. There's stuff I absolutely love, and I still don't buy it. I loved Thomas's Galleon TS120 SE amplifier. I didn't buy it. I loved the REL S510. I didn't buy it. You know what I mean? I can't buy everything I loved. The Rhythmic E15 HP2. Oh my God. I love that subwoofer. I didn't buy it. You know what I mean? But the ATC SCM11 is being bought. It's replacing my Focal Aria 906s because it is so much better. Let's talk about some other comparisons though. Let's talk about versus the Bucart S400 Mark II, another speaker I absolutely love. I've owned it for a long time. It's one of my favorites. Everyone knows that. Well, tonally, the two speakers are very different. They're wildly different, in fact. With the Bucard S400 Mark II being warm tonally from top to bottom, the ATC SCM11 being mostly neutral from top to bottom. But let's break it down. On the treble side of things, Bucard's treble is a little bit on the dark side of neutral or dead neutral, but ever so slightly sharp with its attack. The ATC SCM11 is mostly neutral, but with a darker background, you're getting more detail despite not having any increase in treble quantity. The ATC SCM11 is also a little bit easier on the ears and a little bit more refined overall. I know, guys, I love the Bucard S400 Mark II, but when it's true, it's true. The SCM11 has the more refined treble. Moving down to the mid-range, the two speakers start to depart in a way where personal taste is going to be the biggest factor here. The Bucard S400 Mark II is a bass boosted speaker, not as much as the Mark I version, but it still has very strong bass, and that's going to impact the mid-range, making it sound thicker, warmer, fuller. If you like a little bit more flavor in your mid-range, that's what the Bucard S400 Mark II does. The ATC SCM11, again, it's all about neutrality, but while still staying highly engaging, highly emotionally connected to the experience. Still very open, a lot more clarity in that mid-range of the ATC versus the Bucard, and a lot more air, space, and separation in the ATC's mid-range. Moving down to the bass, comparison doesn't even make sense at this point. Bucard S400 Mark II, again, being a bass-boosted speaker and being known to be an absolute bass monster, has substantially more bass than the ATC SCM11. Bucard S400 Mark IIs have more bass than most bookshelf speakers in similar sizes. No surprise there. Let's jump over into, just so we're clear, while I do think that the treble refinement of the SCM11 is better than the S400 Mark II, in this comparison, I wouldn't say one is better than the other because they're so tonally different. I think personal taste would be the biggest factor. Let's talk about the Evoke 20. That's a similar story to the Bucard S400 Mark II, so I'm going to be quick with this one. The Evoke 20 is even warmer than the Bucard S400 Mark II. It's a very warm speaker in this price category, one of the warmest I've come across. So it's just that simple. If you want the warmest speaker available around $2,000 a pair, Dynaudio Evoke 20, ATC SCM11, much more neutral overall. I will warn you of this, the Dynaudio Evoke 20, as much as I enjoyed it, its mid-range was so warm, it sounded just a little bit closed off. Sorry guys, the ATC SCM11's mid-range is substantially more open, has a considerable amount of more air, space, and separation between all the sounds. Same can be said about the treble. The separation of the ATC SCM11 is a big step up from the Evoke 20s. Last comparison, and this is the fourth one, that's a lot, guys, KEF R3 Meta. KEF R3 Meta is a fantastic speaker. It also has a lot of heft and mass to it, like the ATC SCM11. Both companies use drivers that are unique to their products. You're not going to see them anywhere else. I could have said the same about the Evoke 20. Honestly, Dynaudio makes their own drivers too, as does KEF and ATC. I don't know if those other brands make them in-house. I know ATC does. KEF R3 Meta is actually kind of similar to the ATC SCM11. All the goodness I said that the ATC SCM11 is capable of, the R3 Meta is very similar. The difference here is the R3 Meta is ever so slightly on the warmer side of neutral in the mid-range, and has it's a bigger speaker as far as its height. I think the R3 Meta would come up to about here. So let me just take you through the treble, mid-range, and bass. So starting with the treble, both speakers have very, very good treble that is highly refined with a good amount of separation. They're about equal there in terms of treble quantity, the presentation, the attack being neutral, both top tier in terms of treble. Moving down in the mid-range, this is where they start to depart. ATC SCM11 is more neutral, very, very open, very clear, but very organic, very natural, very engaging emotionally. KEF R3 Meta is no different in terms of being very engaging emotionally, right? But tonally, it's going to be a lot warmer than the ATC SCM11. Moving down to the bass, the speakers depart even further. The R3 Meta is a three-way speaker with a dedicated bass woofer, so it's going to have considerably more bass than a two-way sealed speaker. That's no surprise there. Both speakers have good high-quality bass, no complaints, but the R3 Meta would take the win in terms of bass power overall, being slightly larger and having that dedicated mid bass woofer. In terms of overall, which one is better than the other, I would say, again, this is much like the S400 comparison where personal taste is going to be the biggest factor. And that wraps it up with the comparisons. Let's get back to talking about the SCM11 and then we'll wrap up the video. As far as setup goes, I don't have a lot to tell you. I found them to be very easy to set up. It was almost a plop and drop situation. I, of course, did experiment with placement, a little bit of toe in here, toe in there, but they seemed very easy to work with. This is not a fussy speaker. Love to see that. I can't think of a reason not to buy this speaker. That's how much I like it. I think it's really good. If you want your music to sound the way it's supposed to, you believe neutrality is the way it should be, or you're just like, I don't want to deal with a colored sound because I'm not familiar with what my taste is yet. I don't know if I want cool and analytical or warm and tonally rich. ATC SCM11, start with something neutral. It's a great place to start. I'll tell you this, and I really mean this. If someone came into my house and stole every single set of speakers I had, and all I was left with was the ATC SCM11s, I wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't mind because they do everything really, really well. Everything I love about other speakers, they have some of those characteristics in one way or another. You know what I mean? It's just when a speaker is neutral and done well, there's literally nothing to complain about. You just get good sound. You're plugged in. You're connected, you get detail, you get openness, you get clarity, but you get naturalness, you get the organic sound of the vocalist. There's literally nothing to complain about. It's a win-win situation. So I think that's about everything I wanted to tell you about the ATC SCM11 and why I think it's such a special speaker. And just to be clear, I wasn't bullshitting you guys when I said I'm going to sell my Focal RA906s. If you're interested, hit me up. They're for sale. Dead serious. If you got any questions, this YouTube channel does have a free Discord. The link is posted in all of my videos in the description. If you found this video helpful, leave a like. It helps the channel grow and stuff like that. You can also ask your questions in the YouTube comments below. And until next time, take care.